What's going on, guys? So we're going to be looking at our Week 13 primetime lineups for Draftkings. So I actually previously uploaded a video. This is going to be a re-upload, assuming that the recording goes better than the previous one did. I apologize in advance for some bad audio overlapping video. Trying out some different recording software and can't seem to find one that I like very well. So anyways, we'll give this a shot. So let's just jump right into it. It's a short slate. I'm not a big fan of it. Generally, I wouldn't even play these short matchups. And when I do, it's got to be good matchups that I favor. But this week, I'll still take a crack at it. I feel like I can put together a pretty decent lineup that should do well. This lineup could act well both in GPP and cash, so you can feel free to try it. There's not going to be any huge risky plays here. But there are going to be some good possible upside that would work well in tournament. And when you play in a short slate, just something to throw out there, there's very little variation between you and the rest of the field in a tournament, especially if there's not a lot of people in it, because there's only so many options that are viable. So feel free to fade anybody. If you want to swap players out that you feel better about, of course, do so. I'm never guaranteeing that any one lineup is going to win you $1 million or anything crazy. But I hope to make everyone money. I hope to make money myself. And let's just keep this going. And I appreciate everyone's support. So start off, we've got Russell Wilson at QB. So one thing about Russell Wilson that I like is he is consistently putting up good numbers. Last week was kind of a fluke. He didn't do great against Tampa Bay. I think they underestimated that defense. But nonetheless, I think he's going to have a big game this week. Which should equal some good fantasy points. They've got a lot to prove, and I don't think he's going to let that happen twice. So expect Russell Wilson to go off this week. At running back, we're going to run both sides of the field. We'll go ahead and plug both of these in real quick, and then we'll talk about them. So we're going to go Matt Forte for the Jets, and we're going to go Frank Gore for Indy. So I'm not a big fan of either running back this year. Frank Gore has had some good games. Overall in the season, he's got 7 touchdowns, which isn't horrible, but nowhere near the top echelon of running backs. He is good for about double digits every single week for the most part. If we look at his game log, last week against Pittsburgh, he struggled, but obviously they got absolutely decimated by Pittsburgh. Le'Veon Bell just made that team look like a punk. But before that, he did go 16, 21, 14, so he's generally good for 3x his value. He's still sub $5,000, which is really nice. So we're definitely going to roll with Frank Gore this week. And Matt Forte, he does have some good upside. He's had some really solid weeks. Again, last week wasn't good for running backs, I think, across the board. It's just a tough week for a lot of people. But prior to that, he's had some good weeks. He's a little more expensive than I would generally pay up for his production. But given the short slate and the limited options, I think Forte is definitely a safe pick with some good upside. He's had some weeks where he went over 30 points and close to it. So I'd say definitely Matt Forte is the best option alongside Frank Gore this week. For running backs, this is where we're pretty much going to pay up for the most part. We're going to run with Doug Baldwin to stack with Russell Wilson. Doug Baldwin is clearly the number one target over there in Seattle. Even when he struggles, he performs well. He's just getting the usage that you need out of a wide receiver. I wish he was more towards the double-digit targets, but clearly the number one option. Even if Tyler Lockett and Jermaine Kearse go off for a couple big plays, I still expect Doug Baldwin to get majority of the targets, majority of the catches, and when trusted in the end zone, it's going to be generally Doug Baldwin or Jimmy Graham. And that'll kind of transition us. We're going to jump right over real quick to the tight end, and we're also going to stack on that Seattle game, and we're going to run Jimmy Graham. Seattle's definitely utilizing him a lot. He's getting a lot of those end zone targets. In the beginning of the season, he wasn't being used nearly as much as he should have been, but over the course of the last few weeks especially, he's getting the usage. They realize that he is a valuable gem on that offense, and not a lot of people can shut down Jimmy Graham. When he's playing at his peak, which I believe right now he's close to it, he's unstoppable. So I expect him against Carolina to really pick apart that defense, and I think they're going to do so with Doug Baldwin and Jimmy Graham this week. So we're going to go ahead and plug him in. The other wide receiver that we're going to run with is Donte Moncrief. Moncrief, clearly the number one over in Indy. Now, I'm not sure about the quarterback situation, whether Andrew Luck is going to play this week or not. Regardless, whoever's behind center, they're going to have Donte Moncrief getting fed, man. That guy gets a lot of targets. He's very productive. With the receptions that he gets, he turns them into big plays. 4 touchdowns over 4 weeks. I have no reason to think he can't do it again this week for another touchdown. And with T.Y. Hilton questionable, I don't know what his situation is 100%, but regardless, I'm fading him just because he's been very injury prone. And Donte Moncrief, he's staying healthy and he's putting up big numbers. So 100% I'm on Donte this week. The last wide receiver we're going to run with is Ted Ginn. Now, Ted Ginn is not utilized the way I would like to see him on a week-to-week basis. Some weeks he gets very few targets. Other weeks he's the number one target. But across the board, if you look at him, he's pretty consistent. He has that big play potential with his legs. He's very fast. So at any given week, he can go off for triple digits or a touchdown. You never know. So with Ted Ginn on a short slate, I think he's a safe pick. A little risky, if you think about Carolina and their pass game right now. But I think Kelvin Benjamin is going to be covered a lot by Seattle secondary. And I don't think they're going to allow Kelvin to do a whole lot on that field. So I think Ted Ginn's going to have to carry that weight, and I expect him to have a big week. In the flex position, we're actually going to go with Jonathan Stewart. So I think if Carolina's going to have any chance at a run game, they're going to rely on Stewart to do it. He has been punching them in lately. He has a few touchdowns over the last few weeks. 3 actually over the last 2 weeks. And a combined over 32 points in 2 weeks against New Orleans and Oakland. Now, I know that defense is weak. Seattle is leaps and bounds better than both teams on defense. But with the struggles that I think they'll experience on the pass game, they're going to have to establish a run game. And worst case scenario, Stewart gets some red zone carries, punches in a touchdown, maybe 2, and salvages his week, just strictly on some short distance runs. So I'm not huge on Jonathan Stewart, but I think for the price he's at and his possible upside, I think he's worth plugging and playing this week against Seattle. And now I generally do not play the defense when I have offensive players going against that defense, but considering the short slate, as I mentioned in the previous video, if you already saw it, I am definitely going to roll with Seattle. Of these defenses, Seattle is clearly the number one option. You could possibly take a risky bet and go with the Colts against the Jets. Given that Fitzpatrick does throw a lot of interceptions, that's not a horrible play. And if I run multiple lineups like this, I may fade Seahawks and run Colts, especially considering I don't have a lot of Jets players. But regardless, you don't have a lot of options, and you're going to stack players on both sides regardless. So I would say Seattle this week is a must-play. They're good for a couple interceptions at least, I'm sure. And then who knows, maybe a pick six, maybe a kickoff return, who knows. But definitely running with the defense, special teams for Seahawks. So this is my lineup this week. Appreciate you guys watching. If you like it, go ahead and smash that like button, comment, subscribe if you have any questions, concerns, anything like that. And appreciate the support, and we'll bounce back next week and hopefully make some money. Bye.